This video will show the process of assembling an oversize radiator using our unique ATK2 toolkit. We deliver oversized radiators in 2 or more pieces if they weigh more than 100 kilograms or if they are over 1.2 meters long. When your radiators are delivered, they'll be labelled to tell you which parts make up the full assembly and the order in which they should be joined if there are more than 2 pieces. They'll have bushes on the outer ends and coloured plastic caps in the internal joins. Light colours go together, so if the radiator is in 3 pieces for instance, yellow goes with yellow and green goes with green. We recommend that you keep the packaging on during assembly to protect the radiator. Carefully cut away the plastic around the joining faces using a sharp knife. Take extra care not to scratch the finish. You'll be using our ATK2 toolkit. It includes a large sliding T-bar for tightening the join, 2 lengths of extension, we'll be using the shorter 400mm extension today, a depth stop which helps to locate the join and centralise the extension within the joining face, a 42mm scratchless socket for tightening the end bushes, assembly tool heads for each of the 2 size of nipples, and cap head screws to keep them secure on the extensions. Our utility bleed key, a 4mm Allen key for the depth stop grub screw, a 6mm Allen key for the assembly tool head cap head screws, and a 13mm Allen key for installation of our bleed valves and valve tails. To assemble the radiator, you'll be using double threaded joining nipples. Joining nipples are left-hand thread on one side and right-hand thread on the other. On 1 1/4 nipples only, that's the smaller of the 2 tool heads, there are dimples on the left-hand thread side. If you're holding the dimple side, it is the right hand, or normal thread, that you'll be screwing into the radiator. This is not the case on the larger 1.5 inch nipples, which don't have an identifying feature to show thread direction. You'll need to identify the direction of the female threads within the radiator, so you know which way to tighten the join. Our end bushes can help with that. There's a single round on the edge of the right-hand threaded bush, but on the left-hand thread bushes, you'll see that there's a double round. You'll need 2 gaskets and 2 nipples for each join, as well as gaskets for the end bushes. To start the assembly, first remove the end bushes from the smaller of the 2 radiator parts and the plastic plugs from both sides of the join. Use the nipples from the join kit to check the size of the assembly tool head that you'll need. Today we're using the smaller 1 1/4 inch nipples. Slide the depth stop onto the extension, then slot the tool head onto the end and secure it in place with a cap head screw. Lay the extension over the part of the radiator that you're joining and using the 4mm Allen key, set the location of the depth stop so that the assembly tool head overlaps the end of the radiator part. Now, returning to the larger radiator part, insert the nipples just 1/4 of a turn, being sure to thread them in the correct direction. If it doesn't feel quite right, it's probably the wrong way around. Now put a gasket onto each nipple. Put the extension through one of the openings of the smaller part of the radiator. You'll need to rotate the tool head from side to side to navigate the lugs of the factory sealed nipples, pushing it all the way through the radiator until the depth stop meets the outer joining face and the assembly tool head is in contact with the internal joining nipple. At this point, take care to double check that there's a gasket on both nipples and that the nipples are straight. Lift the smaller part slightly and push it gently but firmly against the rest of the radiator. It may help to have a second pair of hands at this point, especially with bigger radiators. Rotate the tool head a few turns to engage the nipple in both sides of the radiator. The nipple should be central within the join and engaged in both sides of the radiator. If it's not, you must redo the join because it will fail. Take real care at this point. If the thread doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Repeat the process at the bottom so that both nipples have a few threads engaged into both sides of the radiator. Then work on both joins consecutively, a few turns at a time, alternating between top and bottom to keep the gaps roughly parallel. When the join is nearly, but not quite, fully closed, use your fingers to centralise the gasket within the joining faces. With the gasket central, close the join tightly using the sliding T-bar to create the seal. An adult's weight applied to the end of the T-bar will generate plenty of torque to make a watertight seal. Once all the joins are made, you can close off the radiator by inserting the bushes. Add a new gasket to each bush and use the 42mm scratchless socket to tighten them onto the assembled radiator. Now lift the radiator onto its feet and carefully move it into position. At this point, it will be very heavy and should only be lifted vertically to avoid strain on the internal joins. You're now ready for installation. Thanks for watching.